Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever wondered how your body just, well, runs itself, coordinating everything from growth spurts to, just waking up?
Hmm.
A huge part of that is the endocrine system, this amazing network of tiny, powerful organs sending chemical messages. So
Absolutely.
today, we're doing a deep dive into these crucial organs. We want to look really closely, understand their microscopic structure, the cells involved, the tissue.
And how it all connects to health and disease, the clinical side.
Exactly. Think of it as your shortcut to understanding how these hormones conduct the whole body's symphony. And we'll try to find some surprising facts along the way.
Sounds good.
Our main guide for this exploration is a key chapter from Histology, a text and atlas, the 8th edition.
Right. And at its heart, the endocrine system is all about making hormones. These are, well, powerful chemical signals that regulate pretty much everything.
Homeostasis, growth.
Exactly. Keeping that internal balance, coordinating development, it's different from the nervous system, which is super fast, electrical signals. Endocrine uses hormones in the blood. Slower, maybe, but the effects can last much longer.
And the glands themselves are different too, aren't they?
Yeah, that's key. They're ductless. Unlike, say, your salivary glands, they don't have a pipe to release their product. They secrete directly into the extracellular space, right near dense networks of capillaries.
So the hormones can just hop straight into the bloodstream.
Precisely. Ready to travel. And these hormones fall into a few chemical types: peptides, steroids, and some others derived from amino acids.
How do they know where to go? And how does the message get received?
Great question. It's incredibly targeted. Think, lock and key. Hormones are keys. Cells have specific receptor locks. Only the right key fits.
So it's not just a flood of chemicals.
Not at all. Some hormones travel far via the blood that's endocrine control, but some act locally on neighbors' paracrine or even on the cell that made them autocrine.
Okay. And the receptors, where are they?
Two main spots. For peptide hormones, they're on the cell surface. Binding there triggers a cascade inside, like a rapid relay. Quick response.
Right.
Steroid hormones, though, they're different. They can slip right through the cell membrane and bind to receptors inside the cell, often in the nucleus.
So they directly influence genes.
Exactly. That often leads to slower but more profound long-term changes, and it's all tightly controlled, mostly by negative feedback. The response dampens the original signal, keeps things balanced.
Fascinating. And leading this whole hormonal orchestra, we often hear about the master conductor, the pituitary gland, or hypophysis. It's amazing how closely it works with the hypothalamus, that part of the brain it's attached to. Tiny little pea-sized thing tucked away at the base of the brain.
In the cella turcica, yeah.
But what blows my mind is its origin. Two completely different sources, right?
Yeah.
The front part, the anterior pituitary, comes from tissue that forms the roof of your mouth.
Rathke's pouch from the oropharynx ectoderm.
Right. And the back part, the posterior pituitary, is actually an extension of the brain itself.
Neuroectoderm. Yeah. Two origins, one gland. It's pretty unique.
And that dual origin means a really special blood supply, doesn't it? Especially for the front part.
Oh, absolutely critical. The anterior pituitary has this amazing setup called the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system.
That's a mouthful.
It is. But think of it like a private highway. Hormones released from the hypothalamus enter a capillary bed there, then travel down special portal veins directly to a second capillary bed in the anterior pituitary.
So no dilution in the main circulation.
Exactly. It's a direct, concentrated delivery of instructions from the hypothalamus. Super efficient.
Wow. Okay, so let's zoom in on that anterior lobe, the adenohypophysis. Under the microscope, what's the scene?
You see cells arranged in clumps and cords, packed around these special fenestrated capillaries with little windows, perfect for hormones getting in and out.
And how do we tell the cells apart?
Well, historically, staining helped distinguishing basophils, acidophils, chromophobes, but that was limited. Now, with immunocytochemistry, we know there are 5 main functional types.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Definitely. First, somatotropes. They make up about half the cells. They produce growth hormone, GH, pretty self-explanatory function there.
Exciting growth, got it.
Then lactotropes, maybe 15–20%. They make prolactin, PRL for milk production and mammary gland development.
Okay.
Corticotropes, also 15–20%. They produce a precursor molecule, POMC, which gets cleaved into ACTH that signals the adrenal glands and other peptides.
ACTH.
Gonadotropes, about 10%. They make LH and FSH, luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone, key for reproduction.
Makes sense.
And finally, the thyrotropes, maybe 5%, they make TSH, thyroid-stimulating hormone, which tells the thyroid what to do.
So 5 distinct hormone factories. Is that everyone?
Almost. There are also these star-shaped cells called folliculostulate cells. They don't seem to make hormones themselves, but they connect to each other and might help regulate the other cells, kind of like support staff or coordinators.
Interesting. Now, what about the back part? The posterior lobe, neurohypophysis.
Right. Crucial distinction here. It's not actually an endocrine gland itself. It doesn't make hormones.
Ah, okay. So what does it do?
It stores and releases hormones that are made up in the hypothalamus. It's basically a bundle of nerve endings, unmyelinated axons extending down from neurons in the hypothalamus, specifically the supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei.
So it's like a neurohormonal delivery depot.
Exactly. And you can even see these little swellings along the axons under the microscope called herring bodies. They're packed with vesicles full of hormones waiting for the signal to release.
And which hormones are we talking about here?
Two key ones. First, antidiuretic hormone, ADH, also called vasopressin. It tells your kidneys to reabsorb water, crucial for maintaining water balance. Second is oxytocin, famous for stimulating uterine contractions during childbirth and also for milk ejection during breastfeeding.
I know ADH issues can cause real problems clinically.
Oh, definitely. Lack of ADH causes diabetes insipidus. Not related to sugar diabetes, but it means the kidneys can't conserve water. So massive amounts of dilute urine, intense thirst.
Polyuria, polydipsia.
Precisely. And the opposite, too much ADH, leads to SI-ADH syndrome of inappropriate ADH secretion. The body holds on to too much water, diluting the blood sodium, which can be very dangerous.
Really shows how vital that balance is. Are there other cells back there besides the nerve endings?
Yes, there are specialized glial cells called pituocytes. They're unique to the posterior lobe and seem to support the axons, kind of like astrocytes in the rest of the brain.
Okay, so that covers the pituitary, our master conductor. But as you said, it takes orders. So next up, let's talk about the boss, the hypothalamus, the brain's control center for all this.
Indeed. The hypothalamus, right there at the base of the brain, really coordinates most endocrine functions. It integrates signals from all over the nervous system, think emotions, stress, sensory input, and translates them into hormonal responses.
How does it do that translation?
It secretes its own set of hormones called hypothalamic releasing hormones or inhibiting hormones. These are mostly small peptides. They travel down that special portal system we discussed.
The express lane.
Right, the express lane, directly to the anterior pituitary. And they either tell the pituitary cells to release their hormones or they tell them to stop. GHRH stimulates growth hormone release, somatostatin inhibits it, dopamine inhibits prolactin, CRH stimulates ACTH, GnRH stimulates LHFSH, TRH stimulates TSH.
So it's a direct command structure.
Very direct. And remember the feedback loops. Hormones produced by the target organs like the thyroid or adrenal glands circulate back in the blood. They can act on the pituitary or directly on the hypothalamus to dial hormone production up or down.
It's this constant conversation, this fine-tuning.
Exactly, and it connects our mental state to our physical state. Feeling stressed, the hypothalamus kicks off a cascade leading to cortisol release. It's that crucial link.
From that major control center, let's shift to a much smaller player, but one with a really specific, important job. The pineal gland.
Ah, yes, the pineal. Tiny little pine cone-shaped structure tucked away deep in the brain near the back of the third ventricle, often overlooked.
But it's basically our internal clock, right? Regulating the day-night cycle.
That's its primary known function, yes.
Yeah.
It's a key regulator of circadian rhythms.
Yeah, microscopically, what's inside?
It's mainly composed of pinealocytes. These are the chief cells, the ones that actually produce and secrete melatonin. They have large, often folded nuclei, and features suggesting they are neuroendocrine cells.
Okay.
There are also supporting cells, interstitial or glial cells, that look a bit like astrocytes. But one really unique feature of the pineal gland is...
the brain sand.
Exactly. Corpora arenacea, or brain sand. These are little calcified concretions. They tend to increase as we age.
Why are they there?
We don't fully know their function, if any, but they're dense, so they show up well on X-rays or CT scans, making the pineal gland easy to locate radiographically, a useful landmark.
And the star hormone here is melatonin.
Melatonin, yes. Its release is triggered by darkness and inhibited by light hitting the retina, so levels rise at night, helping regulate sleep patterns and other daily rhythms.
That's why looking at bright screens late at night can mess up sleep.
Precisely. Melatonin also seems to influence reproductive function in many mammals, often by inhibiting the release of GnRH from the hypothalamus. Clinically, there's interest in its role in jet lag, sleep disorders, maybe even seasonal affective disorder, SAD, and interestingly, tumors that destroy the pineal gland have sometimes been linked to precocious or early puberty.
Wow, a small gland with quite a reach. Okay, thank you for being part of the Deep Dive family as we delve into these fascinating, sometimes hidden, anatomical gems. Now let's shine a light on the thyroid gland, our body's metabolic maestro.
The thyroid. Located in the front of your neck, below the larynx, kind of butterfly-shaped, with two lobes connected by a central isthmus. Sometimes there's a little upward projection, the pyramidal lobe left over from its development.
And it developed from the primitive throat area, right?
Yes, an outpouching from the floor of the primitive pharynx. Its core functional and structural unit is the thyroid follicle.
Follicle. Tell us about that.
Imagine a tiny spherical cyst or sac. The wall is made of a single layer of epithelial cells, usually cuboidal, sometimes low columnar, called follicular cells. These cells surround a central space filled with a gel-like substance called colloid.
And the colloid is important.
Very. It's essentially a storage reservoir for the precursor to thyroid hormones.
So the follicular cells are the main workers here.
They are the primary producers of the thyroid hormones themselves, thyroxine, or T4, and triiodothyronine, or T3. They have features for both making proteins, like the precursor stored in colloid, and for taking things up, like iodide from the blood and colloid back from the lumen.
Are there any other cell types?
Yes. Scattered between the follicles, or sometimes tucked into the basal lamina of the follicle wall but not reaching the colloid, are the parafollicular cells, or C cells.
C cells, what do they do?
They secrete calcitonin, a hormone involved in lowering blood calcium levels. Its physiological role in humans seems less critical than parathyroid hormone, but it's definitely there. And like all endocrine tissue, the follicles are surrounded by a very rich network of those fenestrated capillaries for easy hormone pickup.
Okay, the synthesis of T4 and T3, that process sounds incredibly intricate. Can you walk us through it?
It really is a fascinating multi-step process. First, the follicular cells synthesize a large protein called thyroglobulin that gets secreted into the colloid for storage. That's step one.
Okay, thyroglobulin in the colloid.
Step two, the cells actively pump iodide ions from the blood across into the cell and then transport them into the colloid. Once in the colloid, an enzyme called thyroid peroxidase oxidizes the iodide, making it reactive.
Got it. Iodide uptake and activation.
Step three, this activated iodine then attaches to tyrosine residues on that stored for globulin molecule. This iodination creates monoiodosine, MIT, and deiodotyrosin, DIT.
MIT and DIT, building blocks.
Exactly. Step four. Then, these iodinated tyrosines couple together. Two DITs make T4. One MIT and one DIT make T3. These reactions also happen right there on the thyroglobulin molecule within the colloid.
So T3 and T4 are now formed, but still attached to thyroglobulin in the colloid.
Correct. Step 5. When the body signals for thyroid hormone release, the follicular cells reach out, engulf some of the colloid via endocytosis. Inside the cell, lysosomes fuse with these vesicles and enzymes chop up the thyroglobulin, releasing the free T4 and T3.
And finally,
Step 6. The free T4 and T3 diffuse out of the follicular cell into the nearby capillaries and enter the circulation. Most of it is T4, which gets bound to transport proteins in the blood. Only a tiny fraction remains free, but that's the active part.
that is remarkably complex. And what do T3 and T4 actually do, and what happens if this process goes wrong?
Their main job is regulating the body's metabolic rate. T3 is actually about 5 times more potent than T4. A lot of T4 gets converted to T3 in peripheral tissues like the liver and kidney. They act mostly via nuclear receptors, influencing gene expression related to metabolism.
So affecting energy use, heat production.
Exactly. And they're absolutely critical for normal growth and development, particularly the central nervous system. If a baby is born with thyroid hormone deficiency, congenital hypothyroidism, and it's not treated quickly, it can cause irreversible intellectual disability and stunted growth.
Wow, that highlights their importance. What about other clinical issues?
Well, you often hear about goiter, which is just an enlargement of the thyroid gland. It can happen in both low hormone states, hypothyroidism, or high hormone states, hyperthyroidism, or even sometimes with normal levels.
Okay.
Hypothyroidism itself means not enough hormone. Symptoms can be sluggishness, weight gain, feeling cold, constipation, sometimes a specific type of swelling called myxedema. A common cause is Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an autoimmune disease where the body attacks the thyroid.
And the opposite, hyperthyroidism.
Too much hormone. leads to increased metabolism, weight loss despite increased appetite, rapid heartbeat, sweating, anxiety, sometimes bulging eyes called exophthalmos. Graves' disease is a common cause here, another autoimmune condition, but this time antibodies actually stimulate the TSH receptor, constantly telling the thyroid to make more hormone.
You can actually see the difference under the microscope in Graves' is right.
Oh yes, the follicular cells become tall, columnar, actively turning out hormone, and the colloid often looks depleted or scalloped at the edges where the cells are rapidly reabsorbing it. It's a very different picture from a hypoactive gland.
That's a huge amount of work and regulation for such a small gland. Our deep dive continues, and we really appreciate you being part of the deep dive family. Next, we'll look at glands that are even smaller but absolutely vital, the parathyroid glands.
Yes, the parathyroids, usually 4 of them, tiny little oval structures typically found on the back surface of the thyroid gland. They have a thin capsule, and interestingly, the amount of fat cells within them increases quite a bit as people get older.
And where do they come from embryologically?
They develop from the 3rd and 4th pharyngeal pouches during embryonic development.
Okay. What cells make up these tiny glands?
There are 2 main types of epithelial cells. The most numerous are the principal cells, often called chief cells. These are the ones that actually synthesize, store, and secrete parathyroid hormone, or PTH. They usually stain pale and might contain some lipid droplets.
Principal or chief cells making PTH. Got it. The other type.
The oxyphil cells, they are larger, stain much more pink or red acidophilic because they are packed with mitochondria. They appear around puberty and increase with age, but we actually don't know what they do. No known secretory function. A bit of a mystery.
Interesting. So the chief cells in PTH are the main story here. What exactly does PTH do? Why is it so vital?
PTH is absolutely essential for life. Its main job is to regulate calcium and phosphate levels in the blood, specifically to increase blood calcium when it gets too low.
How does it do that?
It acts on 3 main targets. First, bone. PTH signals bone cells to release calcium into the bloodstream. It does this indirectly by stimulating osteoblasts, which then signal osteoclasts, the bone-resorbing cells, to get to work.
So it breaks down bone slightly to free up calcium.
Essentially, yes, in response to low blood calcium, though interestingly, giving PTH intermittently can actually stimulate bone formation, which is why it's used as a treatment for osteoporosis.
Okay, so bone is one target. What else?
Second, the kidneys. PTH tells the kidneys to reabsorb more calcium from the filtrate, so less is lost in urine. It also tells the kidneys to excrete more phosphate.
Less calcium out, more phosphate out.
Right. And the third crucial action, also in the kidney, is that PTH stimulates the final step in activating vitamin D.
Oh, vitamin.
Yes. Active vitamin D then goes on to increase calcium absorption from the food you eat in your intestines. So PTH influences intestinal calcium absorption indirectly via vitamin D.
So putting it all together, PTH raises blood calcium by acting on bone, kidneys, and indirectly the gut.
Precisely. It's the body's main defense against low calcium. And remember, the C cells in the thyroid making calcitonin. That hormone does the opposite. It tends to lower blood calcium, mainly by inhibiting osteoclasts. So you have this beautiful push-pull system regulating calcium.
These tiny glands really do pack a punch for calcium control. Thank you for making this deep dive part of your learning journey with the Deep Dive family. Now let's tackle the adrenal glands, our body's stress managers and hormone factories.
The adrenals, or suprarenal glands, paired organs sitting right on top of the kidneys like little hats. They're embedded in the surrounding fat. Each one isn't uniform, though. It has 2 distinct parts.
The cortex and the medulla.
Exactly. An outer cortex, which makes steroid hormones, and an inner medulla, which makes catecholamines, like adrenaline. And just like the pituitary, they have different embryonic origins.
Let me guess. Cortex from one place, medulla from another.
You got it. The cortex develops from mesoderm, while the medulla comes from neural crest cells, the same source as sympathetic nervous system neurons. So the medulla is essentially modified nervous tissue.
That's fascinating. Does that dual origin influence their blood supply too?
It absolutely does, and it's quite clever. They get blood from several arteries. But the key thing is the flow within the gland. There's an arterial supply that goes directly to the medulla, but there's also blood that first flows through the capillaries of the cortex, picks up cortical hormones.
Like cortisol.
Right, and then this cortex-conditioned blood drains into the medullary capillaries. This is important because high levels of cortisol actually stimulate the enzyme in the medulla that converts norepinephrine into epinephrine, or adrenaline.
So the cortex directly influences what the medulla produces.
Exactly. It ensures the primary stress hormone from the medulla in humans is epinephrine, and the way blood leaves is also unique through a large central vein with bundles of smooth muscle in its wall, which might help squeeze hormones out quickly during stress.
Very cool design. Let's focus on the medulla first. You said it's like modified nervous tissue.
Yes. The main cells are called chromaffin cells. They are large, pale-staining cells arranged in clumps or cords. They're essentially modified postsynaptic sympathetic neurons, but instead of releasing neurotransmitters onto another neuron, they release hormones directly into the bloodstream. They're even innervated directly by presynaptic sympathetic neurons.
And they release.
Catecholamines, primarily epinephrine adrenaline, about 80% in humans, and the rest is norepinephrine or noradrenaline. You can sometimes even tell the cells apart ultrastructurally by the appearance of their storage vesicles.
And this is the core of the fight or flight response.
Absolutely. A sudden stress signal triggers the sympathetic nervous system, which tells the chromaffin cells to dump epinephrine and norepinephrine into the blood. This causes that rapid heart rate, increased blood pressure, mobilization of glucose from storage, diversion of blood to muscles, increased breathing rate, everything to prepare for immediate, intense physical action.
And clinically, things can go wrong here, too.
Yes. There's a rare tumor of chromaffin cells called a pheochromocytoma.
Pheo. Heard of it.
It secretes massive amounts of catecholamines, leading to episodes of dangerously high blood pressure, palpitations, sweating, headaches. It can be tricky to diagnose. Clinicians sometimes use the rule of tens to remember its features, like 10% are outside the adrenal gland, 10% are malignant, 10% occur in children, etc. Helps keep possibilities in mind.
Okay, that's the medulla. Now, the adrenal cortex, the outer layer, it has zones, right?
Yes, 3 distinct zones from outside in. First is the zona glomerulosa. It's the thinnest outermost layer, maybe 15% of the cortex. Cells are arranged in rounded clusters or curved columns.
And what does glomerulosa make?
Mineralocorticoids. The main one is aldosterone. Its job is to regulate salt and water balance, primarily by telling the kidneys to retain sodium and excrete potassium. This is critical for maintaining blood volume and pressure.
How is aldosterone controlled, not ACTH?
Mostly not. It's mainly regulated by the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, or RAAS. Changes in blood pressure and sodium levels trigger renin release from the kidneys, leading to angiotensin II formation, which then stimulates aldosterone release. It's a feedback loop involving the kidneys and lungs, too.
Okay, zona glomerulosa, aldosterone, salt balance. What's the next zone in?
The zona fasciculata. This is the thickest zone, maybe 80% of the cortex. The cells are arranged in long, straight cords, often 1 or 2 cells thick, running towards the medulla with capillaries running alongside. These cells look quite pale and foamy or vacuolated in standard preparation.
Why foamy?
Because they are packed with lipid droplets. These contain cholesterol, the precursor for the steroid hormones they make.
And what hormones are those?
Glucocorticoids. The primary one in humans is cortisol. This is your main long-term stress hormone. It affects glucose metabolism, promoting glucose production, storing glycogen, but it also suppresses the immune system and inflammatory responses. That's why cortisol derivatives are used as anti-inflammatory drugs.
And this zone is controlled by the pituitary.
Yes. Cortisol release is stimulated by ACTH from the anterior pituitary, which in turn is controlled by CRH from the hypothalamus. That HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, is central to the stress response.
Okay. Glomerulosa, fasciculata. What's the innermost cortical zone?
That's the zona reticularis, a thinner layer, maybe 5–7%, right next to the medulla. The cells here are arranged in an irregular branching network-like cords. They tend to be smaller, stain darker, and have fewer lipid droplets than fasciculata cells.
And their product?
They primarily secrete gonatocorticoids, mainly weak androgens like DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone. These don't have a huge effect in adult males who have plenty of testosterone, but they are important for females, contributing to things like pubic and axillary hair growth during puberty and maintaining libido.
Is reticularis also controlled by ACTH?
Yes, its activity is also stimulated by ACTH.
3 zones, 3 main types of steroid hormones. It's like a specialized factory line.
It really is. And we should briefly mention the fetal adrenal gland. It's huge during development, much larger relative to body size than in adults, and has a distinct structure with a large fetal cortex that produces precursors used by the placenta. This fetal cortex rapidly disappears after birth, leaving the permanent cortex we've just discussed.
Wow. What a journey through the layers and functions of these absolutely essential adrenal glands. We sincerely appreciate you being part of the Deep Dive family for this comprehensive exploration. So we've covered a lot of ground today, From the pituitary, the supposed master conductor, and its boss, the hypothalamus, to the tiny pineal gland setting our rhythms. The thyroid managing metabolism, the parathyroids guarding our calcium, and finally the adrenals, handling stress and making vital steroids. We've seen the intricate microscopic details, the specific cells doing the work, and how it all links directly to keeping us healthy, or causing problems when things go wrong.
Yeah, the dual origins, the unique blood supplies, like that portal system,
Right.
the specific hormone factories in each zone or cell type.
Hopefully you've had a few aha moments, seeing just how interconnected and precisely regulated this whole system is.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How does this incredible diversity of chemical signals made by all these different specialized cells maintain such a delicate balance day in, day out? And what are the cascading consequences when just one small part of that system, well, when it goes off track?
That's a great question to ponder. It highlights the sheer elegance and maybe the fragility of our internal regulation, something for you to explore further, perhaps specific endocrine diseases, or how this system interacts with immunity or the nervous system.
Definitely worth further thought.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the microscopic world of the endocrine organs. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep being well informed.